Hey everyone, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
Today we're representing back to your roots herbs, and we're diving into a plant with a really rich history, African geranium.
It's known scientifically as Pelargonium Sidoides.
That's right. For generations, people in southern Africa have relied on it.
Yeah, they really have. It's like they tapped into nature's wisdom. And now we're excited to kind of unlock that for everyone.
Exactly. Let's start with why African geranium is considered such a powerhouse when it comes to respiratory health.
Well, the Zulu people of southern Africa, they called it Umckaloabo.
Okay.
And that name means bad cough or chest pain.
Oh, wow. So they were already using it for respiratory issues way back then.
Exactly. The Xhosa people, they had a different name for it, Uvendel. But they use it for similar things. Coughs, colds, and even as like a general tonic.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So its traditional use is really tied to respiratory support.
Yeah, and modern research is starting to back that up, especially when we look at acute respiratory tract infections.
Like bronchitis.
Exactly. There are actually a growing number of clinical trials that are showing it can really make a difference for people with acute bronchitis, both in terms of how severe their symptoms are and how long they last.
So it's not just anecdotal evidence anymore. There's real science emerging.
Exactly.
I've seen some studies mentioning something called the Bronchitis Severity Score. What is that exactly?
That's a tool researchers use to measure how bad the bronchitis symptoms are, like coughing, phlegm, chest tightness, all that. Researchers like Chuchalin and Kamin have used this score in their studies on African geranium. And what they found is that people who took African geranium extract actually had better scores.
Meaning they had fewer and less severe symptoms.
Yeah, and this was true for both adults and children.
So the traditional knowledge is aligning with the scientific evidence. That's reassuring to see. What about the common cold? Can African geranium help with that too?
It seems like it might. Some studies have found that it can help people recover from colds faster and ease those annoying symptoms, like coughing, sore throat, and congestion. There was one study by Riley and his colleagues that showed a much higher percentage of people who took African geranium extract were completely over their cold symptoms by day 10 compared to those who took a placebo.
That's impressive. So it's not just about feeling a little bit better. It's potentially about kicking that cold to the curb sooner.
Right. And it's not just colds and bronchitis. There's also research looking at whether it can help with sinusitis.
Oh, that's interesting. So it could potentially help with those awful headaches, congestion, and runny nose that come with sinusitis.
That's what the research is suggesting. One study by Bachert and his team found some evidence for that.
So African geranium is looking like a pretty versatile herb for respiratory support.
It really is. We're seeing potential benefits across a range of respiratory issues, which makes you wonder if it's working on a deeper level, maybe by supporting the immune system as a whole.
That's a great point. It seems to be doing more than just fighting off specific bugs.
Right. So how is it working? Well, African geranium is packed with all kinds of beneficial compounds.
Like what?
Coumarins, like Chuchalin, Tannins, especially the type called proanthocyanidins, and then you have phenolic acids and flavonoids. These are all phytochemicals, naturally occurring compounds in plants, and scientists think they all work together.
So they have a synergistic effect.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Each one contributes, but together they're even more powerful. Like Chuchalin, for instance, has been shown to stimulate the immune system.
And a stronger immune system means a better chance of fighting off those infections.
Right. And then there are those tannins, the proanthocyanidins. Those may actually block pathogens, the bad stuff from attaching to our mucous membranes, which is often how they start to cause an infection.
So it's a two-pronged approach, boosting our defenses and making it harder for germs to take hold in the first place. What about viruses? Does African geranium have any impact there?
Well, the polyphenols in African geranium have shown some antiviral activity, in lab settings at least. They've been tested against influenza and even showed some activity against SARS-CoV-2 and HIV-1.
So it might have the potential to directly target viruses too.
It's early research, but it's definitely promising. And, traditionally it's been used for gastrointestinal problems too,
Yeah.
like dysentery and diarrhea.
Really?
Yeah. And those uses might be linked to its antimicrobial properties as well, and potentially some antidiarrheal effects.
It's amazing how traditional knowledge and modern science seem to be converging when it comes to the benefits of plants.
I know. It makes you appreciate the depth of wisdom that exists in those traditional practices. It's like they were ahead of the game in so many ways.
Absolutely. Speaking of traditional use, can you tell us more about African geranium's history in southern Africa?
Like we said earlier, the Zulu, Xhosa, and Sotho people, they've all been using this plant for a long, long time. both for respiratory and digestive issues. The fact that it's so widely used by different groups for similar purposes really speaks to its value in their traditions.
It definitely does. And the name Umckaloabo itself, meaning bad cough, suggests it was a go-to remedy for serious respiratory problems.
Exactly. And then there's this story of Charles Henry Stevens. Back in the late 1800s, he was in Lesotho,
Okay.
and he supposedly recovered from tuberculosis
Yeah.
using a remedy made from Pelargonium Sidoides, our African geranium. This experience led him to bring the plant to Europe, where it was marketed as Stevens' consumption cure.
Wow. So it went from a local remedy in southern Africa to being introduced in Europe for a major illness.
Yeah. And even though the medical establishment in Britain was skeptical at first, the remedy still gained popularity, especially in Germany.
That's where a lot of the modern research on African geranium originated, right?
That's right. German researchers took a real interest, and their work led to the development of standardized extracts, like EP's 7630. That's what a lot of the clinical studies are based on today. It's a great example of traditional knowledge paving the way for scientific discovery.
It really highlights the power of combining traditional wisdom with modern science. It's been fascinating to explore this plant's journey from a folk remedy to a subject of scientific research.
Absolutely.
We've covered its traditional uses, its potential benefits for respiratory health, its antimicrobial and antiviral properties, and even touched upon its history. It's clear that African geranium is a truly remarkable plant with a lot to offer.
It's exciting to see traditional knowledge validated by scientific research. It's like we're rediscovering nature's potential.
Well said. For anyone listening who's interested in learning more about African geranium, you can visit our website, www.backtoyourrootsherbs.com. We have a direct link to our African geranium product in the description below.
And who knows what other treasures are out there in the natural world, just waiting to be explored. It's a reminder to keep an open mind and appreciate the wisdom of traditional practices.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive into the world of African geranium.
It was a pleasure.
Until next time.